Welcome to the show Rebels with a Purpose, and I'm your talk show host Terrence Perry. And today we have our special guest and exciting guest, Shirley Perry Church, all the way from Texas. She's here today, and we're going to get right into a long discussion with her today about literacy in children's books that she's written. How you doing, Shirley?
I am great. How are you, Terrence?
I'm good.
I'm so happy to be here. And how are you, Amnon?
I'm just fine, ma'am.
It's so wonderful
It's
to finally
not,
meet you.
I know after talking on the phone, it's nice to see you.
Absolutely.
So Shirley, how was the ride all the way down from Texas through South Carolina, Virginia, and how's that trip?
My body is sore, Terrence. It was a long ride, 16 hours to our first stop from Pearland to South Carolina, where we laid over with my brother, and I went to a few libraries there. And then we left there after a couple of days, and we went on to Virginia, my home, where we again visited libraries and met people and talked about literacy. It was absolutely wonderful. So the trip thus far has been great, and the greatest part is me sitting right here with you.
Hey, I'm definitely glad to have you here today. I've been looking forward to seeing you and talking with you, particularly directly. So we glad to have you here today. Amnon, how you doing?
I'm
How's your
fine,
Fourth?
Terrence.
How's your 4th of July?
It was good. It was hours downtown ceremonies,
Oh yeah.
but it was productive.
And Shirley, how have your 4th been since you've been down? How was your 4th yesterday? Did you get a chance to eat any barbecue while you were down here?
I didn't eat any barbecue, but I've eaten a lot of stuff that I shouldn't be eating. Cookies and ice cream and pizza and all of that good stuff that I shouldn't be eating.
You should.
Okay, I should take a. I was on a business vacation, so I could dabble a little bit. It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. I spent time with family, and I met a lot of interesting people who are interested in literacy, who are interested in what I have to offer in my books, and it's been a wonderful experience.
So let me ask. We're gonna jump right on into the questions that we have for you today, particularly because you do have 2 books out about literacy, and I want a chance to offer you the opportunity to just tell us a little bit about who Shirley Perry Church is, and also why you put this book tour together, and how all of that came about.
My brand is Read to Achieve the Magic. I have always wanted to have magic in my life, and as in doing that, I want to share that magic with children. The literacy on the go is a part of that brand, wherein my vehicle is covered with messages pertaining to literacy. As I drive along the road, it is a reminder of the importance of reading. Traveling from the East Coast up, I have had so many people to look at my vehicle. And in looking at it, if a child were to look at his parent and ask, Mommy or Daddy, what's literacy? There's a discussion right there. Right then and there. And then there's everything about reading and my books. May I hold up my book? Is it okay, Terrence? May I hold up the book?
By all means.
This is The Hunt for the Magic Pearl. This is my first book. It's a wonderful book that the theme is survival. That's the theme for young children, survival, because we live in a world where children are oftentimes preyed upon. And we don't want to think that, but it does happen. And when a little girl or a parent pick this book up, they're going to see, in reading it, they're going to find all kinds of themes pertaining to survival. There's some it's fun reading, but it gives a message to young girls and young boys on how to really take care of themselves. So the hunt for the magic pearl is about hunting for all the wonderful magic pearls in life. The
Okay.
peanut
Before you go into further, Shirley, let me ask I want to give the number out so the callers can call in if they have any questions, concern, or want to voice their opinion about literacy. So the number to call in is 919-518-9773. Do call in and ask myself or Shirley any questions you do have about literacy, about her books, and also about the educational system of today. One of the things that I wanted to touch bases on, Shirley, when you're talking about the hunt for the magic pearl, the book is directed toward the middle school age group.
Absolutely. It's called a middle grade book, but it's also it's a tool, it's a learning tool, in that there's a glossary in the back of the book, for those wonderful terms that the children will come across that they may not be familiar with. So when you look in the back of the book, there's that wonderful glossary. The vocabulary is on an upper level, but it's done such that the kids become familiar with these wonderful words. I am an advocate for teaching vocabulary. When we're in our home, we need to speak those wonderful words, and if it's not done in the home, you will certainly find it in the hunt for the magic pearl. So the book is a learning, it's a teaching tool for teachers. It's also a bedtime story. So there's a whole lot in this book that you're gonna find with these three mermaid sisters.
And I want to ask you about those sisters also, because the way you've done the book, you have the three mermaid sisters, but there's something different about those mermaid sisters that's different than any other book, and it's the color of the mermaids. The little brown girls are mermaids. Can you talk about how you put that theme together and that message that you're sending out also?
It's diversity. I cannot say it enough. There's not enough diversity in our children's literature. We need our children to see themselves on the pages of literature. We need them to connect in such a way that they can grow up feeling like they're important as far as learning to read and write. And in order to do that, they need to identify with the content in the books. They need to see themselves, and diversity is good for everyone. Just like when I was a young girl and I wanted to read a book, I didn't see myself on the pages of that book. Cinderella, I loved the story of Cinderella. But then I would go home and I would look at my hair, and my hair was not long and blonde. So I would take a towel and put on my hair. But in essence, what that does is it changes your identity. You're not the person who you are. You're trying to be someone else. So in doing this, we do have the little brown mermaids, and there are also white mermaids, and I'm sure that there are mermaids in other cultures, but I have never seen a mermaid of color. So my goal, let me find the page here. Oh, just a minute. I want to find the three of them.
Three mermaid sisters.
My goal was to have three sisters of color that everyone, every young child, regardless of their ethnic background, can enjoy and appreciate. So that's I tout diversity.
Let me ask you about one of the themes in the book where the younger mermaid sister, she's disfigured as a mermaid, but as you read the book, she becomes the heroine in the book. Can you tell us a little bit about how that transformation take place, without giving away the whole book?
I included a disability because a lot of our children suffer with disfiguring disabilities, and the first thing that they feel is that they can't contribute. And that is so far from the truth. I have seen amazing, amazing things happen with children with disabilities. In fact, I'm going to bring this up. There's a little girl who had no hands, absolutely no hands, and this baby won a writing contest with the disability that her name is Sea Star, little Sea Star. She was able to overcome her fears and participate and survive just as well as her sisters. So we can't, the message in here is that we cannot let a disfiguring disability stop us from achieving the goals that we set out to achieve.
Now, along that same theme, the book talks about well, the way you targeted the book to the age group, but you also made references to like the diversity, the racial issues that we encounter today. But I think your underlying message is for kids to read, but also read with understanding and get the underlying concepts and messages that we get in society on a daily basis, and it speaks to our self-worth, our self-esteem, and not feeling good enough sometimes.
Absolutely. It goes the one of the focuses in all of my books is critical thinking. Literacy goes to, it's not only the ability to read and write, it is the ability to think critically. And this is what happens from reading these books. Not only do you just read the words, but in reading the words, you have to pick up on the underlying things. And in doing so, you think critically. What is happening? One of the questions might be, why does that mermaid look like a deformed fish? And as you read, or why would a mermaid look like a fish at all? In the first place, a mermaid is in an ocean, so why not? So there are a lot of why nots in this book that will lead to great discussion between parents, between teachers and their students, and between kids just sitting around reading and chatting and talking about the book. So the themes are really, really strong in reference to critical thinking.
And Shirley, also, I guess one of your themes is, I guess, language acquisition. And I know in the book, from reading it, you do have a glossary of words and the definitions. So as someone reads the book, as a child reads the book, a middle school child, they're also learning new words, new definitions, and how to fit them into, I guess, different sentence structure.
I'm a reading teacher.
Okay.
I'm a former reading teacher, and one of the things that I was taught when I was going through my graduate program is that no child will ever be able to read until they acquire their language, and that is an innate process. But what I found in school is that a lot of our children could not read because they had deficits in their language, in acquiring their language. And until those deficits until that's corrected in a way, then you're going to have flaws in reading, if I may.
Okay.
I'm just going to give just a little. I'm going to do a little bit of teaching here. Okay.
Okay.
When
sure.
you have three areas of language acquisition, and the reason why I wrote these books based on my knowledge of language acquisition, which leads to reading. First, you have phonology, and phonology deals with our sound system. Then we have syntax, which is the rules, and it's a whole lot more to this one. It's a whole lot more to all of them. But then you have the rules, and you have your semantics, which is your reading, which goes to your vocabulary. And then you have your pragmatics. That's your social use of language. you're going to find a lot of social use of language in the dialogue that I've used in this book between the characters. You're going to have a lot of the sound system built into my words. You're going to definitely have a lot of meaning in these words. So when our children have deficits in any of these areas of their language acquisition, you can be sure that by third grade, if they have not achieved this in home and by kindergarten age, then you can look for these children to have some problems with their reading. And this is not just Shirley speaking, this is scientific. One of the things, oral language is often associated with vocabulary as the main component. This is a biggie. In my writing for children, I teach vocabulary via my narrative text. Children with limited oral language ability, by the time they enter kindergarten, are typically at a distinct disadvantage. So in writing my books, I made sure to write based on the knowledge of acquiring, based on my knowledge of how language is acquired. And then from doing that, I've written it in such a way that my children will be able to use that knowledge.
Do we have a caller? Do we have a caller? Okay. If anybody do want to call in, again, this is Rebels with a Purpose, and we have Shirley Perry Church with us today. We're talking about child literacy and literature. She's also sharing 2 books with us today. So if you do want to call in, if you have any questions, concerns, you want to voice your opinion, give us a call at 919-518-9773. We're here and we'll answer your call. Shirley, let me ask you this also along the lines of the syntax in which you were talking about kids acquiring these 3 things by the 3rd grade, or if they have not achieved these by the 3rd grade, they're going to have problems in school with language, reading, and so forth. Now, do you find that to be something that happens more with minorities and brown skin children in the educational system? And I want to ask, what role do the educational system play into that itself? Because some schools are better than other schools. Some schools offer more of what you're talking about, where other schools don't.
What I would like to say to that is that language acquisition, reading, and all of that starts in the home. Okay. And when our children, when we speak of children of color, a lot of times our children are born at a disadvantage. And I call that my PGP, and that's persistent generational poverty. It's a fact. It's out there. A lot of our children are disadvantaged. When you start language acquisition, which again is the precursor to the ability to read, if it doesn't start at home, okay, let me give you an example.
Okay.
I have this beautiful baby, and I'm going to give you 2 families here. I'm going to give you one of a little more affluence than the other. I have 2 babies, and one is born in abject poverty. The other one is born to parents who are educated and who have a little affluence. The first baby is born to a single mother. The mother is uneducated. And when I say uneducated, I'm going to use my mother as an example. My mother had a 3rd grade education. The words she spoke are the words I spoke. The vocabulary that she used is the same thing that I used in 1st and 2nd grade. If my mother could not say those STRs, neither could I. It was screet. How do you spell screet when you need to spell it? How do you read it? So that comes from home, and that's just an example, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. Now you have an affluent family, like my cousins, who came from both educated parents. Both had completed, back in the time, high school, which was which was pretty impressive. And they heard all of those nice, long, complete sentences. The vocabulary that was spoken came from newspapers and magazines and all of this library of books that they had in their homes. Put those two kids together in a competitive educational environment, and which one is going to excel? I don't think I need to answer that question because I think we all know. And that is what we're seeing to this day. I'm not even going to go back to slavery. I'm not even going to take it that far, but you better believe that to this day we're being impacted because I was talking about phonology, that sound system. Imagine if you came, I am going to go there. Imagine that you came from Africa with your language. I tell you, it all starts with language. You came from Africa with your language. You cannot use that language. You're introduced to English, but yet you're denied the right to read and write and to process that language. So there again, you process what you hear just like that baby from that mother with that third grade education. And to this day, I taught and I don't want to single out one particular city, but where I taught, when I walked into the classroom and I heard some of those children speak, it took me back 100 years. The language that I was hearing was the language of their great-grandparents. And they had been denied an education. So while we don't want to talk about our past, we want to let it go, oftentimes we cannot because we are being impacted to this day. I still struggle with language and grammar and all of those components that I spoke to.
Amnon, you have a question?
Yeah. I see where you ended up.
Ah.
Tell me what happened with the cousins. What are they doing today?
My cousins ended up, now they received their masters years ago. It took me 20 years to finish to get my bachelor's degree.
But you did it.
I did it.
Good
there
for
it is.
you.
You want it. You
Yep.
have to want it. And that's what's missing in our children today. You have to want it. And I wanted it. And it didn't help that my father was educated. It didn't hurt that I had teachers that cared and pushed me.
Yeah, I mean, but my point was you can come from an affluent family and fail for the rest of your life too.
And that's true.
But
that is
the
absolutely
chances
true.
are that you do have better. Yeah.
But the thing is that, and I see exactly where you're coming from, Amnon. You get those foundations that some children don't get. And that's the thing. I was the only one in my family to go to kindergarten, which means that I did get a lot of those foundations. And while I struggled with reading and writing, I was able to go back to those foundations. What happens when those foundations aren't there or that foundation is terribly flawed?
So let's take this
it
call.
is.
Let's take this call real quick. Caller, go ahead.
Yes, hi. My name is Danita. How are you, Terrence? And God bless everybody that's on the panel and on the call. I just wanted to piggyback on what the gentleman has said as far as like affluence playing a role, but everything plays a role. Whether it doesn't matter where you come from, everything plays a role. I grew up in the hood in Bronx. My mom is from Honduras. I believe she has a GED education. I took it upon myself to want to learn, to develop a passion for wanting to learn, for wanting to achieve an education. So at the end of the day, that responsibility as well falls with the person. But a lot of people in around your circle, they play a role. I had a third grade teacher who everything that I know today about Black history, she taught me everything every day about Black history. It wasn't just for February, it was every single day. But I decided that that's something I wanted to carry with me for the rest of my life. Now, fast forward to my daughter. She's 13. When she was young, I was reading to her. I took it upon myself to read to her, to teach her language, teach her how to write, how to read. Okay, so when Katrina happened, Hurricane Katrina happened, a lot of children were displaced because they didn't know how to read, they didn't know their address, they didn't know their phone number. My daughter, by the age of 2, she knew her address, she knew her phone number,
Absolutely.
she knew how to write her name, you know, and then she also has a cousin. They're the same age. That cousin, she knew every booty shaking song on the radio, but
Yes.
she didn't know how to write her name.
Yes.
So it does start from home, but at the end of the day, you have to want to be able to want to learn as well as an individual.
Damita, I agree with you.
Absolutely. It does go back to warning. And by the time you reach 14, 15, 16 years old, my husband is famous for saying, you have to make a choice. You're no longer a child. You have to make that choice. And if you don't want it, who's going to want it for you? So when you walk into that classroom and you let that teacher or your parent know, oh, no, I'm going to get this, then 9 times out of 10, you will be the one that will go to the head of the line. You will be the one that will get that attention. That's great. That's wonderful.
And you know what? And parents also, parents have to be proactive in their children's lives. I mean, I've gone to a lot of like PTA meetings. I don't see our people there. You know, you barely see that, or they don't go to see about their children in school. When I was younger, you know, my mom would just send us to school. And a teacher, when I was in the 1st grade, a white teacher told me that I would never be creative because I wrote with my left hand, and she was so upset. She tried everything she could to make me right-handed, and she hit me with a ruler. Then when I gave her the look of death, she said, that's okay, you'll never be creative. Those words could have broken me. They could have broken me. So I always tell this story to my daughter, and by the grace of God, today, this girl is on the honor roll. You know, she's just achieving and striving for better. And I say, you know what, God, I thank you. I thank you for my experiences. I learned from my experiences. And I know what to do and what to look out for in order to propel her to achieve better in life. You know, so we all play a role. We all.
Absolutely. And I want to piggyback on what you were saying about the teachers. Now, I grew up in an era of affirmative action and integration, and I thought it was the best thing since ice cream. But the thing that I'm seeing now is that a lot of the teachers, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say the affluent. I don't just want to target white teachers or teachers of other nationalities. But I think the children, unless you can identify with the difficulties that these kids are going through, you are not going to be an effective teacher. As a teacher, and with the experience that I have, and living the life of a lot of these kids, I was able to relate to them. I was able to empathize and walk in their shoes. Therefore, I was able to reach and teach them. And that's what it's all about. Now, some kids, let's not twist this. Some kids are not going to accept what we're trying to do with them. Some of them are too far gone. But as teachers, I put teachers with angels. We cannot afford to turn our back on not one child until we have tried to break through. I'm no longer in the classroom, and that's why I have these books. They are my teaching tools, but I have to get them in the hands of teachers to use them, because I've used everything I've got, including the kids, the characters of color, including the characters with disabilities, including the characters who have lost their mothers and still went on to be successful, still went on to get that magic. And that's what I'm talking about. Mother, you have magic that you've given to your children, and they are succeeding because they're looking for it. They really are. And I applaud you for what you're doing.
I thank you, and I super applaud you for what you're doing. This is so needed in our communities. It really is, because I look at some of these kids, they just don't have the desire for education. They don't.
They're frustrated.
It's really sad. Yes, and I don't blame them.
They're truly frustrated. Well, let me put this to you, caller. If you woke up Say, I'm going to take you back in time a little bit. And you couldn't read and write. And you went into a classroom and a teacher put a book in front of you, 15, 16 years old, girl or boy, it doesn't matter. And a teacher put a book in front of you, even my little Hunt for the Magic Pearl. And you open up that book, and in your language, English, you can't read it. What are you going to do? You're going to flip a desk over because one of your classmates who are just as bad as you are going to laugh at you. Because they're deep down inside, they're laughing at themselves. But those classmates are going to laugh. And there you go, knocking over desks, cursing out the teachers. And that's no excuse because they should be trained better, but they aren't. They are not. And that frustration and embarrassment will top everything that teacher is trying to do. So we have got to teach our children from babies. We have got to catch them. But the problem now, caller, is that the 15 and 16-year-olds are being thrown away. They're being moved out of the way, in hopes of catching the young ones. But they still aren't teaching the way that they should. And you're going to find another generation in trouble.
Shirley, let me stop you right there. And Demeter, you stay on hold with me for a minute. And let me take this next call real quick. Is the caller still on? Next caller.
I'm here. Hey, this is Akila Say, educator, consultant, and author. Sister Shirley, I want to say I honor you. And Sister Danita, I honor you as well as a single parent. I'm a single parent also.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so hard to figure out when to call in because it's such a rich conversation.
Anytime is good.
It really is. It really is. And I wanted to ask Ms. Shirley.
Yes.
I just recently decided to leave education as far as saying working in a public institution or a private institution and to go out and conduct workshops across the community in order to educate for some of the same reasons you said. And you mentioned something about affluent teachers and teachers being angels, and I definitely thank you for that.
Okay.
What do you think about teachers being able to learn how to reach the children? Like, I know we need to reach the children. And I think a lot of teachers recognize that there's a gap there between where the children are, what they're being trained to do and not to do, what the curriculum is telling them to do, and the time frames they have that restrict them. So what would you recommend for teachers to do other than have a loving heart? That was my strategy. I'm just going to love on you and love on you. So my students would call me mom and auntie, and I could get through that way. But for a teacher who doesn't necessarily have that open, loving heart, what would you suggest?
I suggest...
Because the literacy is really big.
Yes, ma'am, it is. We have in-services, okay? And in those in-services, I think that we should really, really emphasize mentoring. If our teachers are mentors in conjunction with being professional teachers, I think we'll get through because that parenting is a part of mentoring. But on a professional level, you're going to treat these kids like future productive adults when you mentor. You're not just going to teach them literacy. You're not just going to teach them their ABCs. You're going to teach them how to function in society. You're going to teach them their manners. You're going to and that's a lot of that is missing, that etiquette that we used to have from the old days. You can't get through a child who's got a whole bunch of junk in their heads. So these teachers are going to have to learn how to take out the trash before they can put in the good stuff. And that's what I had to do every single day. When my kids walked into the classroom, it's like, all right, babies, let's clear out the trash from last night.
You sound like me. Yeah.
Because they see a lot of it. So we have to undo it. And if we're strong enough as teachers with our mentoring, with the lessons that we plan, that's based on where these children, we're meeting these children where they are, then we will get through, and at some point, what we teach them will go home instead of home coming to us. And that's what we want. In the community, we need our teachers to be surrounded by strong community leaders. We need our teachers to be supported by their administrators. And we need to get that mentality out of our heads that we're going to let another child drop through the cracks and get rid of them. We have to. because these kids are hurting. And when they hurt, we hurt. When they break into our homes after we worked hard to put beautiful things into our homes, it's our responsibility. I'm not going to continually blame these kids because society is not doing what they're supposed to do. Our school, I was taught and I made it. Am 9 asked me, how did you make it? Because somebody did not allow me to fall through the cracks. And my mama drank every day of her life and could not take care of me. But I had teachers, I had mentors who came out and supported me, who believed in me. Believe in a child and see what you get. Show a child that you sincerely believe in him or her. And I mean truly believe. And see what you get. And that's what we have to do as a community. You're a parent, you would do that for your child, but we have to form that village where we go out and do it for somebody else's child who's failing. And that's what I did. That's what I did every day. It was my heart. It was everything that I was taught, my knowledge, because knowledge is power. When I went to school, I learned because I knew I had to touch another child.
I definitely thank you for answering that. That's what the workshops are about. I want to expand on what you said about working with the children. And you said something my grandmother always says, which is you can't be mad at the child because they weren't trained, which means the parents and the family and the community are supposed to train the child in the way they should go so they don't part. And so a lot of like different outings, I believe you should incorporate the parents as well. I think we separate the children and the parents into separate categories and try to work with one and not the other, hoping that somehow a bridge is formed. What do you think about taking it and actually creating a bridge, like with these workshops that I have and the book that you have, and actually going into the community and saying, you know what, family, let's come together and talk about literacy. Let's come together and talk about character. Let's come together and talk about how to economically empower you as a unit so that you can provide for your family without stress and focus on education. And how about we actually learn what education is, not just what's in the schoolhouse, but like Sister Anita said, learn about your own history. Taking pride in yourself, and like the both of you said, having motivation, being motivated from the inside, so that when you do get hit by life, you do get hit by society, you're still able to move forward.
We have a lot of young parents who, oh my God, I just love you. I don't know who you are, but we're gonna have to connect. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we do have to teach. I had a 16-year-old parent. I think she became a mother at 13. Now, can you imagine what she was teaching her child, because she didn't know. And she told, after our meeting, she came to me and she said, Mrs. Church, she said, I can't teach my son to read because I can't. And what you are advocating is so powerful. We do have to go to our parents. They are young and they don't know. And then the grandparents, I'm going back generations again. Yes. They don't know. So there's that PGP, that persistent generational poverty. And I agree with you 100%. Let's grab these parents in and we'll teach them while we're teaching their children. And let's see what we get.
Yes. We'll definitely connect after the show and further that discussion, because what you're saying is very important. Like literacy, mathematics, I taught mathematics and I always incorporated literacy into that, because I told the children you can't understand math nowadays if you don't understand how to read and you don't comprehend the meaning of the words and the tenses of the words and the usage of different words when they're put in different places in a sentence. And so many people, I feel, they don't understand that in different sectors. Just
it starts with language.
On the curriculum and not the actual learning process of the brain.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. It all goes back to the brain. And what's so unique, I have a degree in psychology. And what's so unique about that is that the brain is so ready for us to learn. We are equipped with language. Oh my God, what other animal is born ready to communicate and survive through that communication? So it's right there for us. We just have to teach it and reinforce it. And then these babies will be able to read. But again, I cannot emphasize enough, it starts from the home and not from the government, from the parents.
Akila Faye, I appreciate you calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you, Sister Shirley and Miss Anita, and thank you, Terrence, for having her on. And I'm going to keep tuning in.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll definitely give her your information. You was
Thank
on the
you.
show 2 weeks ago,
Yes, sir.
and so we definitely have that video also. Thanks again for calling in. Is there another
Love you
caller?
all.
Okay, we're gonna take this next call.
And you need to tell them to be quiet.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, we're gonna take the next call, and we're gonna need you to turn the volume down on your system.
You need to make sure that there is no other audio in the room, no kids running around and screaming, and you're not watching the show and listening to it. And I can tell already that you are.
So you gotta cut the
Are you
volume.
talking to me? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
You talking to Tiffany? No, I'm not. I was the one that was online. I was
Okay.
telling you I was
ahead.
watching my daughter speech therapy, but I don't step out now.
Go
So,
ahead.
I just want to call in because I want to relate on what Miss Perry Church was saying, and I'm going to say this because that is my aunt. This is Tiffany Jefferson. That is my aunt up there. And
Okay.
what I'm going to tell you is that far as when she went back and was saying and was talking about how her cousins were educated, they had a better education, and how her mother didn't. And I love my mom, that's her sister, I love her to death. But my aunt is the one who gave me the courage to go on, to do better, to want more for myself. By watching her grow into how she worked with these children, she gave me the courage to help raise my two children to be the parent that I need to be. Because my oldest daughter, it will be 7 in a couple of weeks, and she had a speech issue. But because my aunt is the way that she is with these children, she gave me hope. And I kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And then come to find out, okay, my daughter Agnes was too big, so she couldn't hear. And they kept telling me, oh no, she has a problem. She can't do this, she can't do that. And I kept her back in kindergarten again. I did. But she super excelled. And as I'm speaking right now, I'm standing outside her door where she's in speech therapy, where I take her to. When she was in school, she did in school speech therapy. And I still picked her up twice a week and took her to speech outside of school, which is where I'm at right now. So just to reiterate on that is that, yeah, you know, you have to want it. I want more for my daughter than I have. I want her to super exceed me, and I want her to know that she can. And I'm going to eliminate that frustration that she may have because she couldn't understand something, and make it so that she can by any means necessary. If that means I have to hire myself out, bringing her to speech twice a week, or and then some.
Thank you,
So,
Tiffany. Thank you
you're
so
welcome,
much,
darling.
sweetheart. I appreciate that. And you are an exceptional mother. You are an example of the parent that I'm speaking of. And your girls are, my little nieces are absolutely beautiful. And I know that they are going to go far.
You're lucky.
Yeah, thank you,
I think they are
Sarah. And if you
fortunate.
don't mind, I'm just going to say one more piece, if that's okay.
Oh yeah, feel free.
This year I had to take on my stepson. He's 15 years old. Okay. And when he came to me, he literally was like he didn't know how to do this and he didn't know how to do that. And when he came to me in Norfolk, an E is a F. That's where I'm at. I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. An E is a F. And when he came to me, he was an E student. But when he got out of 7th grade this year, he was an A student.
Wow.
An AB honor roll student. And that's because I wouldn't give up and I couldn't push him. I wouldn't stop. And then I had to get my husband involved. He didn't jump on it right away. But if you got me in your ear every day, eventually you're going to jump on I'm sure. I did it, and this is also with taking my own daughter. And then I have another daughter that started pre-K this year. But I stayed on the thread of them, like right on right. Now, as the children get older, there are some that you cannot reach. But I was dang if he was going to come in my house, and I wasn't going to turn them E's into A's. And that's what you do. And that's what I did. So, sometimes it is too late, and sometimes it ain't. So it's like Mom said, you got to try anyway. Don't give up. Keep trying. And it was one heck of a year. It wasn't easy at all. I will admit that. But when I look back on it, it was worth every moment.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you
You're
so
welcome,
much,
sir.
sweetheart.
And we applaud you for that. Like you said, you do have to put forth the effort to try to change change the child anyway. I mean, and we all have to put forth that effort. And if it happens, it do. If it don't, then maybe that person may need someone else to step in. But someone has to keep stepping in and keep trying until we get it right. As long as there's
Yeah,
breath in the body,
absolutely.
we're not gonna fail anybody if we can help it.
Absolutely.
Listen,
Absolutely.
Tiffany, I do appreciate you calling in. And is there another caller? We're gonna take the next call.
No, it's no problem. I'm gonna go ahead on and sign off here because I'm gonna go back in there with my daughter. But I wanted to call in and just support my aunt and give that testimony just in case it may help somebody else.
It definitely will.
Thanks, Tiff.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye bye.
All right, next caller, please.
Hello, am I on?
You are? You are on, go ahead.
Mr. Perry, and this is Church.
Thank you.
This is Joy Sonia Lawson, and I am actually a current educator, and this topic just has been so rich. I really agree with the caller earlier saying that I didn't want to call in because I was listening in, and it was just so much good information. But I wanted to tell you that this topic is just so timely. Right now, the children, they're with their parents, and what better time to talk about literacy than now? Ms. Church, you mentioned it several times, talking about how, the parents, they have to get involved and they have to do this. It is important for parents to know that they are their child's first teacher.
Yes.
They are the child's first teacher.
Yes.
They're the ones that set that stage. And I think about when my children were growing up, we would have reading time, just something that we did in our house. We all sat down and we all read. It was just what we did. It wasn't, okay, well, your teacher said that you have to read. No, this is what we do. We want to become better. We want to learn new things, and this is one way to learn new things. It's through reading and so those different experiences. And I love the fact that you're doing your book tour now and that you're showing more characters of color. That is so vital to a child's self-esteem. And even with comprehending information, I work with mainly children of color. I want to say at least 95% of my students are students of color. And it's very hard for a child to understand material when they can't even relate to the material.
Exactly.
They can't see themselves in that position because they've never seen someone who looks like them in that position.
Absolutely.
So I just really do appreciate, what you're doing.
Absolutely. I would like to read something quickly. Reading is the only academic area in which we expect children to arrive as kindergartners with a basic skill level. Research has shown that oral language, the foundation of which are developed by age 4, has a profound impact on children's preparedness for kindergarten and on their success throughout their academic careers. Most children typically enter school with a wide range of background knowledge and oral language ability attributable in part to factors such as children's experiences in the home and their socioeconomic status. Now, here's the good part. Children in low SES, that's your socioeconomic statuses, were exposed to short imperatives and typically negative words such as no and stop that. That's what a lot of these children hear. No, sit down, stop that. But compared with the children from the high socioeconomic families, they tended to be exposed to greater quantities and quality of spoken and written words. They were exposed to descriptive language, expansive narration, and positive reinforcement for communication. Now you tell me, when you're telling your child, sit down, shut the blankety blank up, you're dropping them on their heads and you don't even realize it. So we have to start with strong oral communication in the home.
Amen.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. And I think one thing that parents sometimes we don't understand is that when we do not explain things to our children,
Yes.
we are denying them that right of developing a better vocabulary. I do not want you to do that because this is going to hurt you. If you take this, when you're explaining things to a child, they're able to acquire those words as well and use them. So that is
Yes.
something that I'm actually working with parents and the teachers to make sure that students are successful, because I believe it starts there, and many parents, they just don't know. They don't know, and I think that's one thing as a teacher. It is my responsibility, and one thing that I'm working on now is to help them, to let them know. We just actually had a program at my school, and it's called a READ program. It was sponsored by Harvard University and Wood County. For the teachers had to sit down and watch modules of what happens when a child enters school
Ms. Lawson?
not reading, without books.
Ms. Lawson?
There's a low score, so yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm gonna cut you off for a minute because you're breaking up a little bit. Now I know you are coming on the show in about a month and a half, so we definitely look forward to having you on as well. But I want to give Miss Shirley a chance to wrap up. She's going to give her social media means of us getting in touch with her. But we also look forward to. I appreciate your call in and look forward to you coming on the show in, I think it's October. All right.
And my brand is Read to Achieve the Magic. You're going to see it all over my truck. You're going to see it all over the world. My website is www.readtoachieve2.com. You may reach me at readtoachieve2@gmail.com. My 2 books, and we didn't even get to discuss the peanut butter trap. Hate is such an ugly word. Oh my goodness. Go out and buy it, and we can talk about it. It is a wonderful, 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 thought-provoking, critical thinking book told from a rat's perspective. And how many of you are going to tell me, Miss Church, I am not a rat? Oh, yes, you are. Because when you look on the back of it, you're going to see that the acronym for rat is a good thing. The Hunt for the Magic Pearl, don't forget it. We all are looking for a little bit of magic in our lives, and we're going to start to make that magic with our children. These 2 books were written from my heart and from my knowledge. Go buy them and support me so I can keep running up and down the road preaching literacy.
Shirley, the books are on Amazon.
These books are everywhere books are sold. They're on Amazon. They're on, you can find them at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. I am trying my best to get them in every library there is all across this country, so you may help me with this. Tell your school librarian, tell your public librarian. We want the peanut butter trap for those who cannot buy it, and we want the Hunt for the Magic Pearl. You'll find it a little bit cheaper on my website, www.readtoachieve2.com.
All right, Shirley, we didn't get to touch on the peanut butter trap as much as we did get to talk about the Hunt for the Magic Pearl. But can you just take a minute or two just to give us a little bit about the peanut butter trap, just in terms of, I know it's set for middle school age group, but there are again some underlying messages to where we're talking about critical thinking. We're also talking about bigotry. Can you just speak on that real quick to give a person an idea of what the peanut butter trap is all about?
In society, unfortunately, there are traps everywhere for our children. Even our educational system, our failed educational system is a trap. And you may not think of it that way, but every time we fail a child, we have subjected that child to another societal trap. The parents, what the parents are going through is a trap for a child. The prison system, oh my goodness, is a trap for a child. The food that the kids eat that cause obesity and high blood pressure in children are traps. There are traps everywhere, and this is told from a rat perspective. Now, when you look at our giants, you will notice that they're not black. They're not white. They're not Japanese. They are green. And that represents the haves and the have-nots. And I shouldn't even told you that. That should have been part of your critical thinking to figure that out. But this book is so thought-provoking, and it starts from middle school to young adults. And it's I don't know what to tell you. Buy it.
Shirley, we definitely appreciate you bringing your book and sharing not just about the books themselves, but also about what you are about, your mission, your purpose, and also we can tell the passion that you have for what you're doing. So we definitely appreciate you coming all the way down from Texas. We hope you have a safe trip back. Enjoyed having you today.
Yes,
Amnon?
yeah, I want to take it some. I mean, we still have a couple of minutes.
Okay.
You keep saying that the kids need to be exposed to better stuff.
Yes.
It's a wishful thinking. Those parents cannot. So the parents should go and get educated so they can do it. I mean, you see the vicious circle there.
Exactly. That's that PGP. That's that persistent generational poverty.
So what do they do? How can parents overcome it if they're already in a certain situation where they're not educated, single mother, don't have much of a vocabulary, but she wants the kid to know more?
Amnon,
How?
Amnon, I was homeless. I was living in a shelter with my 2 children after a failed marriage. And how do you come from that? Again, that's that WANT word, that want. But society had to help me.
Right.
I needed someone to hold a hand out. Sometimes the government, society have to give you that handout. Now, if you have a person, education, I said it was a trap. Because of the expense of education, a lot of these parents may want to go back to school and can't because of the expense.
Right.
Now, some of our politicians are saying that we're going to provide that free. I'm not out for a whole lot of freebies, okay? But the thing is, when you want it, and if you can get that handout, then yes, go for it and do it. But you've got to want it. You can't live and wallow in that you can't have that self-defeating attitude, because if you do, you're going to be destroyed, and so are your children.
And let me also add.
I hope I answered that question.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. I mean, it's a major problem.
Yeah.
How do you change that mindset?
But you do have to change the mindset, because you have to keep on encouraging. And I don't care if it's an adult, young adult, or what have you. I don't care if it's an older person. You still got to encourage them to, as long as you got breath in your body, you got to be a lifelong learner. And so you never stop, regardless of what challenges you go through. You just go through those challenges, be persistent. Eventually you'll get past that challenge, and there's going to be other challenges, but you keep going. You keep educating yourself. You don't have to necessarily be in a school to learn. And if sometimes you can learn on YouTube. You can learn anything you want to on YouTube, self-study. You may not get a degree for that, but you are educating yourself, and you can still pass that on to your child. You don't have to get a formal education, but there's many ways to get education. So your point is well made, and any adult must also know that they can always do better. There's someone out there that can help them do better. They just have to find those do better people to surround themselves with, or even that educational system to surround themselves with. It don't have to be a school. Again, it could be with social media. You can learn anything you want to, anytime you want to.
True. But the thing is, like, I'm going to go back to what
We
Amnon was saying.
We're out of time.
I want to go back to what Amnon was saying. How do you, if you're reading on a 2nd and 3rd grade level, I hear you. How do you overcome that? One way to do that is that we put an influx of mentors on the street and in the community. That's one way to do it. Now, I don't believe in throwing good money out the bed, because you can say, okay, we're going to get you in a nice house and all of that. That's not going to do it. We've done it over the years. We've built projects and all of that. It did not work. It made things worse.
Right.
But if I am a mentor with the knowledge and power that I have, like my niece was telling you, I was able to influence her. And we influence one another. Now, it's a big job.
Sure.
It's a big job. But you do one parent, and I've done that with some of my parents. And they come. The girl who told me I can't read because I can't help my son. What I should have done was to have her to come after school every day, every other day, and teach her. That's what we have to do, and it's taking time.
But it's a problem, because they need to go out and work. And they get outside and work, and they get crushed because they say, I can't make it. I can't get more than what I have. They come home. They are in no mood to teach the kid. They're in no mood to do better. They just want, leave me alone. Either they go and smoke a cigarette, drink, go to sleep. Kid, go play with your friends, and
Watch TV.
that's the problem. And it's all that. So it's a real vicious circle.
But you can't, as a parent.
There's few and far between people are finding a way, but it's.
They do, and as a parent, you can't. When I was going to school and I was by myself, I would come home, work all day, come home, fall asleep studying on my dining room table. But I had to get there in order to come out of that home, and I was still homeless. They had us in a house situation, but I had to do that. I had to have that drive, because otherwise the next generation was lost.
You had the drive.
That's it.
And that's what's missing in 99% of all these people that can't make it, is the drive. You're right. If the drive is there, everything is possible. I agree.
I don't know where that drive. God.
I mean,
God could just hit him all over the head and say, get up.
You know, because of faith, you got you got that drive. You know that's who in front of you. The Creator's in front of you, and that gives you faith to have that persistence to keep going, because you know somebody got you in their hand. It ain't just you trying to lead yourself. You're being led by a higher power that lets you know you're gonna keep going, because you know you got something greater and bigger that's gonna get you through it. It ain't just you trying to get through it by yourself. You would have quit yesterday.
True.
So it's all about faith in it. And we're gonna close on that note. Shirley, again, I definitely appreciate you coming. I enjoyed this discussion today. It was passionate. It was animated. The books, I hope everybody go out and get them. Again, this is Rebels with a Purpose. We'll be back next Tuesday at 2. We're signing off. You only have so many tomorrows. Good evening.
You're tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.